It's amazing what you can do. But anyway, so you can meditate in any place, in a hotel room, that is fine. It's great to meditate in a hotel room because you can spread good energy out there. Because sometimes hotels are not the best of places, all sorts of stuff goes on in there. And also people are very tired, sometimes they get drunk in the hotels. It's a great place to spread some good karma, some good energy. So out of compassion for all beings, you can meditate and spread loving kindness in hotel rooms. I was told not to, as it may attract spirits. Is it true? Only if you ring the room service will you attract the spirit cart. The ghost bottles. So don't ring up for the bottle ghosts. It will only attract good spirits. Remember, if you're a meditator, you're more powerful than the bad spirits. The good spirits, they will come to you and protect you. So you only get good spirits if you meditate, not bad ones. If each individual is different, rebirth, how to apply the similar characters to characters of identical twins. Okay, identical twins are never identical. Look, I see one in front of me is brown, the other one is white. You identical twins? Not really. You look pretty similar. But I know that sometimes it's weird how people are pretty close together, but they always have some differences. If you don't believe me, ask their mothers. The mothers always know which one is which shows they aren't the same. They have slightly different characters and sometimes hugely different characters. For example, I know one pair of identical twins. One is one of my disciples, he's a Buddhist. The other one is a Catholic. They're identical twins. Completely different religions, let alone sort of looking the same. So they are different because different streams of consciousness come into the womb. There's similarities because if you're going to share a womb together and you're going to be identical twins, you must have done some karma in the past together. There must be some connection there, and that's a connection from previous lives, gives them similar experiences, similar outlooks. Because usually if you had a choice, if you're a Buddhist, would you share a womb with a Catholic? The chances are you'd be attracted together, birds of the same feather fly together. So you'd probably actually go into the same womb together. So usually, most twins would be a Catholic with a Catholic, a Buddhist with a Buddhist. No twin share in the womb. And that's what happens usually. That explains why many twins have got similar characteristics, but they aren't the same characteristics. Okay, next question. If parents divorce because of extramarital affairs, must be lots of extramarital affairs going on around here. There are many instances that children experience similar situation, i.e. they or their spouses have extramarital affairs and divorce. Is it because of bad karma of parents? Yes, it is. Because, we set the example to others. We teach by example much more than words. So if the parents, say to their children, you've got to keep your precepts, when you go to university, don't drink, don't take drugs. But the parents are hypocrites, and then the children won't follow. Remember when I was a school teacher, there was a rule in the school I was teaching at, no smoking. And the children would complain to me. They said, look, there's a rule for no smoking, but every time we knock on the staff room door and the door opens, there's billows of smoke come out where the teachers were. Because the teachers were ordered to smoking. They said, you're just a bunch of hypocrites. And I said, yeah, they are. I didn't smoke, but the other ones did. And said, if you're going to tell other people not to do something, you should not do it yourself. There's that wonderful story of Gandhi. It was in his autobiography. When he was a young student in London studying law, like many students in those days who were staying in a boarding house with a landlady, just a room, she'd make all the meals for him. One day she came up to him and said, Mr. Gandhi, he was only a student at this time, I want your help. My son is eating too much sugar. It's bad for his health. I've told him many times. He won't listen to me. But I don't know why, for some reason, he respects you. Can you please tell my son not to take too much sugar? And Mr. Gandhi said, yes, I will say that. I will tell your son, madam. The days went past. They turned into weeks. and the son was still taking as much sugar as before. So the landlady went up to Mr. Gandhi and said, "Mr. Gandhi, do you remember that conversation we had where I asked you to intervene and talk with my son to stop him taking sugar?" He said, "I remember that, madam." "Well, you promised me you'd talk to my son, but you haven't. Why?" And she said, "I have, madam. I only talked to him this morning." "Why did you wait so long?" said the landlady. "I had to wait till this morning to talk to your son, madam, because it was only yesterday that I gave up sugar." And that's actually why he became a great man. No hypocrisy at all. If you're going to tell other people to keep the 5 precepts, you have to keep those precepts yourself first. If you're going to teach your children to be good, caring, committed to the relationship, their children, your parents, they've got to do their job. You have to do your job as well. And if you teach your children by example, it's all right to cheat on your wife, then of course they're going to learn that. And that's not going to make them be adulterous, but it's going to incline them to adultery. That's why, if you're going to be a parent, you really have to look at yourself and say, am I worthy of being a parent? Make sure you have your precepts, you have your wisdom. Being a parent, being a husband, being a wife is full of sacrifice. It's not just for your own pleasure. It's for service to your family, for letting go. That's why it is a spiritual path if you use it properly. Any questions on that? Okay, next question. If we cannot see our past lives by way of meditation, can we do it through New Age methods, such as past life regression? Is it good to know our past lives? I reckon it is good to know your past lives, and some past life regressions can work, but sometimes you have to be very careful because sometimes you get false memories. They're not really true. That's why past life regression through hypnotherapy can work, but sometimes it's not as accurate and not as good as the ones you get in deep meditation. Obviously, deep meditation is much harder to get your past lives. But when you get them, they're far more accurate, far more reliable. However, you can use past life regressions. In Australia, some years ago, there's a wonderful TV series, or not TV series, a documentary called Reincarnation Experiments, where he was a psychologist in Sydney. He was regressing some of his patients through hypnosis, especially if they had some sort of phobias or some mental disorder, little things, even like depression or anxiety. And he had this brilliant idea because he had some people who remembered their past lives clearly. There were past lives in a place where they could prove they'd never been to before. And they were past lives in recent history, maybe 100, 200 years ago, where, if it was true, it should not be that difficult to find records of such people. For example, that one of the cases, and what he did, he rang up or he contacted the local TV studio. A great idea for a documentary, reincarnation. You can come and film these, all ladies as it turned out, under hypnosis, film their memories, and then you can pay the fare to take them over to Europe and places and see if what they remembered was right. It was a very interesting TV series. But one of them, for example, she was a woman who was born in Sydney, lived in New South Wales all her life. It was very easy to check with the passport office that she'd never been out of the country. And she remembered her previous life as a doctor in Scotland in the 19th century. Now, doctors were very important people in the 1860s, I think it was, that there should be some record of that person in that place. And especially that she said that in her previous life she was a man by the name of Dr. James Archibald Burns in a town of Blackgowrie in Scotland. And I was brought up in England and I travelled in Scotland extensively. I'd never heard of a town called Blackgowrie. It's one of the small towns amongst many others. What are the odds, the chances? Now, even James is a common name, but Archibald isn't. Burns, obviously, is a very common Scottish name. But what's the chances of getting a Dr. James Archibald Burns as the MD, the general practitioner in that town? The town will only have one doctor. What are the chances? And of course they went there with their cameras, searched around in the local public libraries, and there document after document about Dr. James Archibald Burns, MD. They took this lady back to Aberdeen, where she did her medical degree at Aberdeen University in the 1840s and 50s. As soon as she saw the place, she took the TV camera all over the place. She'd never been there before in this life. She knew all the nooks and crannies. It was amazing just how accurate it was. And that was the case, that she obviously had remembered her past life, and it was true. No doubt about it. And that was through regression. Sometimes it is right, but sometimes it doesn't work. Fascinating. So you can do that, and sometimes it is interesting. At the very least, it proves to yourself that there is such a thing as past life. I'd like to, any evangelical people, I'd like to regress them, so they do find out that they have lived before. And they're probably a Buddhist before. Now they would not sort of be so upset at other religions. I would like to regress Mr. Bush, to see that he was maybe an Iraqi in his last life. Mr. Sharon, so he could know he was a Palestinian. Then we wouldn't think that we are so special, and our group, our religion, our race is somehow important, more important than others. Dear Ajahn, this might not be an appropriate question, but the curious cat strikes. Does a lady have bad karma if a monk disrobes and marries her? I would like to express my sincere gratitude and rejoice at the wonderful Dhamma expounded by Ajahn during the short retreat. Does a lady have bad karma if a monk disrobes and marries her? It really depends exactly what you do and how you do it. Because if it's just some karma from the past, and the monk is just a young monk, and you have no real intention to, disrobe anybody, and it just happens, obviously there's no bad intention there, you're just a human being, and the young monk is just a human being. So it's not really, really bad karma. But if you go in there thinking this is just a challenge, which some women can do. There was one of my friends, he's a monk in the Burmese tradition. He was maybe about 13 or 14 years as a monk. As a warning, we tell other monks. He was in the Buddhist Society of Victoria. I'm the spiritual advisor of that place, so I know exactly what goes on there. He was staying there giving some teachings because his mother lived in Melbourne, so he was staying there giving some teachings. And then there was an Indonesian girl, quite attractive, whose parents were incredibly rich, billionaires. So she had more than enough money for the rest of her life. She was just a playgirl, that's all. And so she decided, she had a look at him, she decided, just as a challenge, something to do, rich girl's plaything. She decided to see if she can disrobe that monk. And so she started talking with him, chatting him up, wearing nice clothes, being kind. And he fell for it. And one day, he decided, he was in love with her. She was in love with him. So they left the temple in Melbourne. They got into a taxi. He went to a hotel. He rang up from the hotel to, I think, the president saying, look, I'm disrobing. I'm no longer a monk. He did it the proper way. Went into the hotel room. They had one night together. He thought, right, that's it. I'm going to fall in love. I'm going to marry this girl. After that one night, she just dumped him. Goodbye. Have a nice life. And he was just so heartbroken and disappointed. I thought you loved me. I just wrote to get married to you. It wasn't that at all. It was just the fun of actually seeing a monk sitting high up on the seat, everyone listening to his talks, so she could disrobe him. Just something to do for a rich girl. And completely left. So that monk, he was very good. Afterwards, he said, he came back the next week into the Buddhist center, said, I was so stupid. And he he was honest about his lust. He said, I lost it. And that woman sort of tricked me. But such a woman as that, yes, they did do enormous bad karma. That was really mean. And that was very cruel and not the right thing to do. But the monk was stupid as well. He should have seen it coming. That's bad karma. But if it's, there's sometimes karma from the past. We always tell the story in the Northeast Thai tradition. There was this one monk. He started getting incredibly deep meditation, started getting his psychic powers. And then everyone thought this would be a great teacher for the future. But one day in Armsvan, he saw a girl offering food. She was from a nearby village. She was just visiting her relations. And just he got so much lust coming up for this girl. And she for him. And being a good monk, he went back and told the teacher. And the teacher said, well, look, it's best if we send you to another monastery so you don't see her again. Because he wanted to be a monk. He didn't want to get married. He had powers and stuff. So they took them to another monastery. And he was happy for a while until, just as it happened, there's no sort of intention here. The woman was visiting another relation in that monastery as well. And again, the lust came up. And then the abbots of this monastery, they looked into their mind and found out, this guy had been married to her for many, many lifetimes. And the abbot realized it was impossible to stop. So eventually the monk disrobed and got married to her. It was not his fault, it was not the wife's fault, it was just karma sometimes that strong. So in that case, there's no sort of, no bad feeling. There's no bad karma. It's just, just intentions and power from the past. That's all you can do. So that's what happens sometimes. So it's not really bad karma for the woman, not bad karma for the monk. It's just what happens sometimes in those situations. But sometimes if you're just playing around just to see what you can do, then don't do that. That's bad karma. Any questions on that? Okay, next question. 10 days is not enough. Now be easily satisfied, be contented, Happy indeed to follow in the footsteps of the Buddha. Twice I'm at the door of jhanas, but my heart couldn't take it. I tried mind programming, but now not working. I believe that I shall still need to polish up my paramis. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bhante. You don't know how close it may be. Sometimes you say, it's the last day, give up. No chance now. And right at the very end, when you think now's the time to go, the last sitting, the last minute, then it comes. Isn't that happen sometimes? Sometimes you try so hard. You try. And just when the breakfast is about to begin, then it starts to get peaceful. You ever notice that happen? The mind all over the place, and just before lunch, it starts to come. The point is, don't have lunch. Don't have breakfast. Carry on. So, who knows? There's still many moments to go. Some people say, there's only a few hours to go. But listen, what we finished at 3 o'clock, it's another 6.5 hours. That's 6.5 hours, that's almost 400 minutes. That's 24,000 seconds. And it only takes 1 second to get into jhana. You've got 24,000 opportunities. Isn't it amazing just what you can do? 24,000 opportunities to get into jhana. Who knows? One of those 24,000 might be yours. So sometimes it just happens. Dear Ajahn, when we let go of everything, i.e. don't want anything, don't do anything and just watch during meditation, that is being unconditioned, isn't it? Of course, as Ajahn puts it, once past first jhana, even from second jhana upwards, when one is stripped of will, one is the unconditioned already. There you are unconditioning yourself. But there's many layers of conditioning. You strip away one layer and you find another one, and there's another one underneath that. That's why the Buddha called these sankharas. He described them like a plantain tree, because it's layers of leaves, you strip them away. But there's no pith, there's no solid wood in the plantain tree. That's why you take away all these conditioned realities. Take them away, and then eventually you find there's nothing inside. The whole tree stands on conditioned phenomena, nothing solid there at all. Or, as Venerable Bhante Gunaratana said, instead of calling it a plantain tree, it's like an onion. An onion is the same. You can peel it. It's just leaf after leaf. When you get to the centre, there's nothing